Alaikum and welcome to our final episode in our Zakat on Money series, and today we are going to work out how to pay Zakat on our money after we've spent the previous videos discussing how we evaluate our money in Zakat. Do we use it by gold or use it by silver? It was a long process, but we got to the right answer in the end, inshallah ta'ala. Now, what normally people do is they'll go to, for example, like Google, they'll type in price of gold in grams, for example, and they'll get the answer here and say, okay, this is the price of gold in grams. Or they might go to a gold website. For example, let's try bullion by post, for example, and here we might find the price of gold right here, 31 grams. They'll times that by 85 and get us the amount of money that we need to have to get Nisaab. 85 grams being Nisaab, and that's the price. But as you will see shortly, this is not a very accurate way of determining when we need to pay zakah. So let's have a quick look at our previous sheet that we had made. Refer to our zakat on gold and silver to find out what this sheet is all about, this spreadsheet. Basically, we have a list of gold items, we have a list of silver items, and it gives us a breakdown of how much gold we have, how much silver we have, and how we pay zakat on it, yes or no. But there's also this little section here about the money we have, how much money do we have. And I mentioned that there's a field here called highest Nisaab value of gold and the current Nisaab value of gold. And we mentioned to leave that until next video, which is the video we're going to discuss right here. So what are these numbers? Now, the default numbers of fields we have here, 2,830 pounds and 2,522. These are accurate as of today, June the 10th. But as time goes on, these values will change, as you'll see in a minute. So you'll have to update this if you use this in the future. And all you would need to give us the right accurate data on the results are the following bits of information. We need to know what is the lowest amount of money we've had in savings for about a year. So, for example, I put here £1,200. That was the lowest that was in my possession. Not my personal possession, but in my possession in this example. My current amount is £4,000. The highest Nisaab, we'll discuss that a bit later on, it was this amount, and the current Nisaab is this amount. Assuming these two are correct, once we put this data in, it will tell us whether we pay zakat or not. So at the moment, we have 51 grams of gold in this spreadsheet. The lowest point I had was £120. When you combined the value of this gold with the value of this money, we have just over Nisaab, and therefore we pay zakah. We pay 4.665 grams of gold in zakah. We mentioned this issue of combining. Now, combining means whether you combined the gold and silver together to determine whether you have Nisaab. Imam Shafi'i said that we don't combine, and the Nisaab of gold is independent from the Nisaab of silver, and we keep it separate. If you have the Nisaab of gold, it doesn't mean that you have the Nisaab of silver, whereas the majority, or the other scholars, they say no. The point here is the value. So therefore, if we have half the Nisaab of gold and half the Nisaab of silver, then we add them two up to get the full Nisaab. So therefore, we would combine, and therefore, we would have to pay zakat on both. Part of the research we had done in previous videos was to find out whether Imam Shafi'i's opinion was stronger or the others. How would we discover that? Well, if the Nisaab of gold was a different value than the Nisaab of silver, then we can understand that yes, these numbers are specific to gold and silver, and this is something that we can combine. But if we found that there was a universal value whereby the 85 grams of gold was actually equal to 595 grams of silver in value, then combining them made sense. Now, we can see from the previous videos that exactly the Nisaab of gold, the Nisaab of silver, the Nisaab of camels, the Nisaab of sheep, all of them had the exact same value. This value X, we called it. So therefore, combining them does make sense. However, as we've seen also from previous videos, is that the value of gold has shifted from the value of silver, or vice versa. So therefore, combining the two, it doesn't add up to the same value. So what we added here a little note saying, if you have the Nisaab of silver, but not gold, don't combine with gold. As in, don't combine the two. But if you have the Nisaab of gold, then combined with silver. And why did we say this? Well, we kind of took this as a middle path between the two opinions. I.e., because we determined that the Nisaab of gold reflects and a better analog for what was determined as being rich at the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Therefore, if you have the Nisaab of gold, you have reached the definition of being rich. So therefore, we would combine the two Nisaabs and we pay Zakah on all. But as you've seen from the previous videos, is that if you have the Nisaab of silver, which is actually quite easy, you can achieve that at just only about £200. That doesn't necessarily make you rich by the definition which we had seen from the previous videos. So therefore, we don't combine between the two. But in saying that, we cannot say, oh, don't pay Zakah on your silver. No. If you have the Nisaab of silver, meaning you actually have 559 grams or more of silver, we would suggest you pay Zakah on that silver. But if you had the Nisaab of silver and you didn't have the Nisaab of gold and money, then you only pay the Zakah on silver, not on both of them. So it's a combination between the opinion of Imam Shafi'i and the other opinions. We are Shafi'i if you have the Nisaab in the silver metal. We stick with the Jumhur, the majority, if you have the Nisaab in gold. And this is because the Nisaab of gold reflects the universal value of Zakah. And as you mentioned here, this button here is where you add the value of money to your Zakah if you wanted to see it separately or together. So the next step will be to find out what is the Nisaab of gold. So what you do is you go back to web browser and go to a website called TradingView. Now this is a website which I've used and it's very useful in terms of stocks and shares and the value of different things and on the stock market. But we're interested in gold. And gold, you can just type in gold. The universal standard is gold by the dollar. So an ounce of gold by $1. But we're not interested in the dollar at the moment. We're in England, or we live in England, so I'm interested in pounds. An easy way to find out is by pressing X, then AU, which is the atomical symbol for gold, and then we put Great British Pound, and that gives us these values here. So what we see here is what we call a stocks chart, which defines the price action of a particular commodity. So this would be the price in pounds across the side here, and this is the time date. Each one of these green, what are called candles, means the price went up, and when we see red, it means the price went down. So very quickly, this is to explain why the current method of determining whether you have Nisaab by picking a value and then working backwards doesn't work. So if we click on this button here, we want what's called a trend line. And we just do a simple line like this. And then click on this one so we can select it. Now here we have a little cog here which gives us some settings details. And in settings, what we need to have checked is show date and time range. And we need the price range. We just need these two checked. You'll see why in a minute. Now, we need a line that is 355 days long. So here we see 355 days long. And to make sure this line is horizontal, we need to have 0%. There we go. So now we have 0% price difference. So if the prices here and here is the same. And we have 355 days. So now I can select this line here, and this indicates a full year. So if I put this price right here, right now, we can see that if this was the money we had, the minimum amount of money we had for the year, we can see that the Nisaab, or the value of gold, went up above it, then went below it, then went up above it, then went below it, went up and then below. The price of gold goes up and down all the time. Even though the money you have in the bank account remains the same. So we can't just use the current day's price to determine and go backwards to determine whether or not we have Nisaab. But to make it easy, we made an indicator to help you determine when you have to pay Zakah, when you'll be eligible to pay Zakah, and when you're not eligible to pay Zakah. So if you click on this character up here, called indicators, and type in Nisaab, you should see here Nisaab range indicator, which is what we made. And this will help you determine your zakat. Now, we no longer need this this chart anymore, so we can maximize this indicator. And this is all we need, this bit here. So what you can do, if you get your mouse, you can click here and pull up and down to increase and decrease the range. And the same goes with the time at the bottom. You can click it and pull to expand or contract the time. Anyway, we're interested here in what is going on right here. To keep it simple, we take the most recent highest Nisaab and current Nisaab, which is the blue and pink number. So we can see here, we have numbers. We can see at the moment, at the top, the blue, it has 2,830. And we take the highest of the two pink numbers, which is 2,658. 2,638. And this was our current Nisaab and the highest Nisaab. This is how we work out what we need. Now, do we need to pay Zakat as it is? Yes, we do. And therefore, whether we combine or don't combine, we pay Zakat as it is. That is the simplest way to find out if you have to pay Zakat. We come to this chart, look for these details here, this number here, this blue number here, and this pink number here. Now you can see the numbers here are changing. This is based on the different days. Look at the bottom here. This indicates the day that my cursor is on. So this is the 20th of September 2017, and it gives you the number, the value of the Nisaab on those dates. But we want the most current date, which is here. But as we just said, the value of money goes up and it goes down relative to gold all the time, every day. And this is only telling us that no, we don't pay Zakah based on this highest Nisaab here. So let's go to the chart and verify that information. We need two pieces of data. If you go to this cog here, we can see here, there's two fields you can input some data in. You can input the amount of gold you own and the minimum amount of money you have. Once you've put that in, then you will be presented with a green line that indicates the absolute minimum you've had at any given time. From there, you can see where it crosses above or below the Nisaab. For details on how this works, you can refer to the explanation in the code. Here, if you click on this bit here, it says show source code. In the source code, we have explained here in detail how this chart works. In looking at this chart, we can see different colors here. We have dark green, we have light green, we have blue, and we have red. Areas that are dark green are areas that you have to 100% pay Zakah based on the level of Nisaab you placed in. So let's put in a number here. We have here as default, you have no gold, and you have £2,700 as the minimum amount of money you've owned through the year. So we have this line here of £2,700, which crosses this chart. So the dark green areas indicates areas where you have to 100% pay Zakah. The green areas are areas of caution. You may not have to pay Zakah. It depends on the interaction with the Nisaab, how this line interacts with the value of money you have. If it's blue, this blue line here, it indicates when your minimum amount of money that you have goes below the Nisaab area. So this red line here is your Nisaab, and this blue line and this green line, which is the money you have, has gone below the Nisaab. At those areas, you have to verify how much money you had during those periods of time, because this green line only indicates the minimum amount of money you had. It doesn't mean that is actually what you had throughout the year. Your money went up, your money went down, but this is the minimum you had throughout the year. The red line indicates where you definitely don't pay Zakah. So if the money you had, the minimum amount of money you had throughout the year is in the red area, then that means you don't pay Zakah at all, guaranteed. So let's take a few examples. So let's just say 6 years ago, you had £2,300. So that means that this £2,300 is below the Nisaab and below the lower level, which means you definitely didn't pay Zakah. And you didn't go above the Nisaab until about this area right here. Only when it became green about here, you was above the Nisaab. I mean, it did momentarily do it here, but here you was above the Nisaab. So here we need to start counting the year. So until about here, you was now above the Nisaab. A full year must pass before you are eligible to pay zakat on this money. Now, as you can see, although a year has passed, it momentarily dipped below the Nisaab at this point right here in this blue area here. So if you just check from there, from that moment onwards, we can see that a full year has passed from here to here. And now you can see at this moment in time, this actual date, you are now eligible to pay zakat, and now it's now gone dark green. So from 2013 to 2014, you're now eligible to pay zakat. And once you pay zakat at this point here, we now count again the next year. Let's get another line. So from here, we move forward another year, another 355 days. And we can see here, that although throughout this year, it's gone from dark green and it went to blue, which means it went below the Nisaab, but it came back above the Nisaab after that time. And at this point here, you would be eligible for paying zakah if you had above the Nisaab during this moment. Now remember, this line here of 2,300 pounds, that is only indicating the lowest amount of money you had throughout the year. So as long as during this period of time you had more money than Nisaab, then you still continue counting. But if you didn't, and you had below the Nisaab, then you start counting again from this moment onwards. And as you can see here, during this green period here, you have to pay zakah once again. If we move on to the second year, imagine we continue from here onwards. If you move on to the second year, we find that in that year, that 2,300 pounds is below the Nisaab and continues to do so all the way until here. We see now this red line that goes above it, and therefore you are definitely underneath the Nisaab and you definitely don't need to pay zakat on that 2,300 pounds. So that's what these colors indicate. The green indicates where you definitely have to pay zakat. The light green indicates where you may be above or below the Nisaab. You have to check it throughout the year. Same with the blue. The blue means you're actually below the Nisaab. Again, you have to check it to see if during that period of time, the money you have is below the Nisaab. And below in the red area means definitely you don't have to pay zakat at all during that period of time. So let's have another example. Imagine I add to this 10 grams of gold. Now the graph has shifted down, meaning because I have 10 grams of gold, I need less money to be above the Nisaab. Because remember, we combine the value of money to the value of gold. So yes, again, during this period of time, 6 years ago, I was still below the Nisaab, but quicker than that, I was above the Nisaab here. And I remained above the Nisaab year in, year out, paying zakat every year until this point here. So here we can see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times we had to pay zakat. But during this time, the first year we paid zakat, definitely, because we're above the green line at this point. Second year, third year, so 3 years in a row we had to pay zakat, definitely, because we were in the green area. But in the fourth year, the price of gold went up, and therefore the money we had was below the Nisaab, and therefore we need to verify, did the money we have in our bank account during the period of June 2016 and December 2016, was it above this area here or was it below? So that's what these blue areas and the green areas indicate. If we were to change the amount of gold we had to 80 grams, therefore the threshold for needing to pay zakah is all the way down the bottom. Here, we only need a few £100 to be able to be eligible to pay zakah. Because most of the Nisaab is contained within the gold, and we only need a few extra pounds to take it above the Nisaab level. So let's have a look at that. This changes to 75 grams of gold, and the lowest amount of money I had during that time period was £125. Now we can see that although I have 75 grams of gold, the money I have is still below Nisaab. I need a minimum of £332 to be above Nisaab. The last point I want to cover is when do we determine when we have to pay Zakah in the first place? As we mentioned, we have to have what's called a hawl. Zakah is not payable on every Ramadan, it's payable on every hawl, which means every time a year has passed on your wealth. So a full 355 days must pass on your wealth before you are eligible to pay Zakah. So let's have a scenario here. So now I'm going to assume that at some point in the past, let's just say 2012, the beginning of 2012, you had zero money. You graduated from college with no money in your hands and you had nothing. And during that time period, you were earning money, but you were spending it. So you went to work, you got wages and you spent it. And then you got promoted, you earned more money, and then you spent it. You earned more money, and then you spent it. And this was how you were living your life during that period of time. But at some point, you decided that you was going to start earning but saving. So you spend a little bit and you earn some more. Spend a little bit and some more. Spend a little bit and some more. And that was your income. This was your income and your savings. So when will you determine when you have to pay Zakah? Well, as you can see, let's take this year stick. It is as soon as you cross the Nisaab right here, which would have been the 24th of September. It's at that moment you start counting a full year. So we can see here, at this full year, at the same time next year, or this is making sure this is 355 days. This was 19th of September. So therefore, at the 9th of September, which is an Islamic year, we pay Zakah. And therefore, we start counting again. So from that 9th, from here to here, we start counting the next year. And we pay Zakah. So it's not every Ramadan, but it's every time you have a year pass on your wealth. So you pay Zakah once here, you pay Zakah once here, you pay Zakah once here. Let's take another scenario. So starting again, we look at the beginning of 2012, and you had some money, and you saved that money, you spent a little bit, you saved some money, and you were now above the Nisaab, and you spent loads, went above Nisaab again. You saved, you bought a car, money went up slowly. And then after a while, you went on holiday again. And then your money went up again slowly. So as you can see right here, there was a moment when you were above the Nisaab. But very soon after that, you were below the Nisaab. And then after that, later on, you was above the Nisaab. But within a year, you were below the Nisaab. If your cash flow it goes above and below the Nisaab, a full year has to pass first before you have to pay Zakah. So again here, it went above the Nisaab. And at this point here, you would pay Zakah as long as you had that money right above this Nisaab. So let's zoom in on this section here. So you was above the Nisaab right here, and your Zakah was eligible right here. So therefore, you pay Zakah on all the wealth you have, even though a few days later, you are below the Nisaab. So you have to pay Zakah on one full Islamic year, not every Ramadan. Just remember that as you use this chart here, you can always adjust your minimum amount of money you have for a year, and also the amount of gold you have during that year. So if you have no gold at all, and the minimum amount to have is 2,500, then the chart will show you that although you don't pay Zakah right now, there was a moment in time where you had to pay Zakah. So if you think about it, if you didn't pay Zakah during this period right here, you need to go back and pay Zakah on the money you had in the past. Or maybe you've had, the minimum you had for the year is 2,600. And therefore you can see here that 2,600, sometimes it's above, sometimes it's below. So if you had 2,700, if you look here, only during this period of time you were below the Nisaab when it comes to that minimum amount of money you had. So you need to go back to your bank account and check between the dates. Remember the dates at the bottom of the screen here. So you need to check the date from the 8th of August until the 15th of September and ask yourself, did I have more than the amount of money I had during this period of time? If so, then you pay zakat for this period of time. If your minimum amount was £2,800, then you, again here, you start counting from here. From this date here, from the 10th of November. And you ask yourself, did I have more than Nisaab during this period here in April? And did I have above the Nisaab during this period here also? So as long as your bank account had more than this amount during these 2 periods of time, then you pay zakah during that time. And the next time you pay zakah would be the 29th of October, as long as the money you have doesn't go below this Nisaab. So you take that information and you go back to the previous chart, put in the amount of money you have right now, put in the minimum amount of money you had throughout the year, which was 2,800, and it will tell you that you need to pay 4.68 grams of gold on your zakah, and you pay 6.498 grams of silver. Now when you pay zakah, it must be in gold or silver, and if you're paying money, it must be the value of this gold and this silver at the time of paying it, or at the time it's eligible. So if you're working backwards and you wanted to know how much zakah did I owe right here, you need to know the value of gold at this particular point in time, at the 3rd of November, before you pay zakah. So 4.67 grams at the price of November. We hope you found this video beneficial. Please like and share and spread with your friends and family. And inshallah, we'll make this ummah an ummah that pays zakah once again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.